So I never really liked you, and I don't consider you a friend. But that was no further reinforced until you offered up the suggestion that we should watch the Melania movie and do a Panda rating on it. So good job. I hope you're happy with yourself.
We were just having a nice conversation and everything.
Yeah, that's over. There'll be no more of that. You know, you're in denial and telling me to watch Megan is Missing, which I liked better than Melania, by the way. So,
That's fair.
uh, but wow, what we do for you, Panda Army. Okay, Mike's still my friend, but friends really don't make friends watch Melania, I would say. Which maybe that's a t-shirt. I don't know if we can do that or we'll get into trouble because Trump's a soon kind of guy.
He does
One
seem
billion
quite litigious.
dollars. Yeah, take down the Pandaplex, so we can't have that. But we will do our Panda rating system. If I sound a little hoarse and cough, I'm just physically ill from having watched this movie less than 24 hours ago. So it's shook me to my core. So sorry about that. It's
Be
Mike's
honest
fault.
with the Panda Army, sir. You were cheering along, screaming Melania at the top of your lungs.
I did lip sync with her to Billie Jean when she was, and copied her YMCA moves, which were memorable. But yeah, Amazon got this movie for a steal documentary. Yeah, so quite the quite the low price of 70 million. That's before marketing, by the way, folks. So we'll see on that. Oh my God. All right. Well, we'll go through now. This is the first documentary we've done, so we have to slightly shift our categories a little bit. So the
Do
first
we
category,
though?
not
I feel like documentary is a little bit of a stretch.
I would, yeah, which would be one of my arguments is that it felt like so I don't know if this happened to any of your family Thanksgivings where people would put a video recorder up on a tripod, set it in the corner, and then just point it at the table and turn it on for the Thanksgiving Day meal. And then they just left it on. So the rest of the time you're just kind of left with people walking around and doing stuff. That's kind of what it felt like.
No, that's never that. That would have been horrific. The things they would have caught on that camera at my family Thanksgivings.
Yeah, it's probably best there's no evidence now that I think about it. But the first category is plot writing dialogue. I added dialogue to it because of whatever the hell this is. So would you like to go first or would you like me to go first?
I think I can go first. I think first we need to qualify something. Are you a documentary fan in general?
I am.
I also really like documentaries. Just for my to create a baseline for the Panda Army here, all documentaries, in my opinion, are biased because there's the point of view of the filmmakers, the way they're choosing to edit it, the things they're choosing to emphasize. There's an inherent bias in there. As much as they may try to be neutral, they have a point of view and they chose a subject with a particular point of view. So even the most dry, fact-based documentaries have some sort of point of view and some sort of bias in there. You just kind of have to accept that. Unless somebody happened to turn on a camera and catch something found footage movie style, there's some point of view to it. So it is what it is. In recent years, and I think the tent pole of this, or whatever you want to call it, like the thing that really he didn't start it, but really popularized this documentary is more of a movie would be Michael Moore to me. And I'm not saying that his movies are bad. I disagree with a lot of his tactics, but I'm not saying his movies are necessarily bad. But they're edited in a way to match more of a movie than a documentary, including staging things or editing things in a way to give it more of a flow. So, really famously in Bowling for Columbine, they edited together different clips of Charlton Heston's speeches because he would wear the same tuxedo, and all of them they edited together to make it sound more I don't know what the right word is, abrasive, I guess, in his responses to certain things from his NRA speeches. But as the NRA pointed out, those are actually different speeches that he gave. They took two or three different speeches and literally spliced things together because it would just be him in a black tuxedo standing in front of a flag. They all looked identical. So it was easy for them to do that pre AI and things like that. That's not a documentary anymore, in my opinion, at that point. And again, I don't even necessarily think the this shift is that bad, but it's getting further and further away from what a documentary is and more towards what, in my opinion, reality TV is, where it's sort of staged scenarios that they let the people play out without a set script, if that makes sense. That's more how reality TV works. That is 100% what this movie falls into the category of. And at first I thought it was just that, so there's an opening sequence of her leaving Mar-Lago. There's camera tracking shots, there's crane shots, there's drone shots. There are multiple camera angles of her getting into the car and different things like that. And these are obviously staged shots because of the different angles and not catching any crew or tracks or anything in those shots. They're obviously staged. So I thought, well, this is just for the opening. The whole movie plays out that way. So I was like, how is this a documentary at this point? I actually did stop it because I was getting pretty mad. Similar to The Village, if you ever saw that movie,
I did
the
not.
M. Night Shyamalan movie. All right, cover your ears. There's a twist at the end of The Village that it's not really a period drama. But when I was in the movie theater watching it, I got mad pretty quickly because it's showing you this old-timey frontier village, but I'm no fashionista. Obviously, I wear jeans and band t-shirts. That's it, period, all the time. So I know nothing about fashion, but I knew looking at their clothes, while their clothes were very plain, they were modern machined clothes. I know what store-bought clothes look like versus Amish people, for example, because Pennsylvania has a large Amish community of people who make their own clothes. You can tell the difference. They don't look the same. So if I, knowing very little, could look at the village and go, this is bullshit. These are store-bought clothes. Now, again, it plays into the twist later, so it almost defused my anger at the movie when the twist finally came because I hated it up until that point. Just because I was like, wow, this is the laziest, shittiest movie ever. And I started to get just equally as mad at this for these kind of stage shots. And then I looked it up. And apparently, she has been very vocal that this is not a documentary, that this was staged and shot, that it was all things she had to do anyway, like the dinners and people she had to meet with and things. But she wanted them staged like a movie to make it more entertaining for people to see. So she's been very clear that this isn't a real documentary. So at least there's honesty there. And that did diffuse some of the anger that was very quickly building up for me for this. That being said, so I flip flopped on that. I was really mad. Then I found out that she's not calling it a documentary. That eased up a little bit for me. The next part of it, though, was okay, so you went out of your way to stage these things because it's so important that we see what the First Lady does. I don't have a clue what the First Lady does after watching this movie. I don't feel like we learned anything. I feel like the first half of the movie is very focused on fashion, which makes sense because she was a model and her mother was a designer. So that really does make sense to me. I have no interest in that though. And if your tag for this or your hook for this is that you're going to show people what the perspective or the incumbent first lady has to do in the days leading up to the inauguration, so much of this is focused on the fashion element of it that I don't think you actually learn that in the end. So for that, this is a one panda for me. It's not a zero, but it's a one panda.
It's zero for me because, um, yeah, there's absolutely no point to anything. through this entire thing. It is, I mean, they are all events that you could logically say, oh, that's a dress fitting, or oh, you're picking out place settings. But in terms of a narrative through line, the one point where she does share what the schedule on inauguration evening will be, in terms of going to these three balls, that was like the only piece of like actual information that was shared in the whole thing. And I don't find that stunning information. So, yeah, I just, in terms of the dialogue, and it was just so insipid. And you know, the designer, the dress uh, uh, designer who was working with her, you know, from central casting, even like in the birdcage type of thing, where he was just like, he's a super over the top guy. And that's fine. You can be over the top. But it was just like, oh, you know, it just felt just ridiculous. So, um, yeah, I just was waiting for any point to be made. You know, and she kept saying, well, I'm looking to reinvent the First Lady. And it was like, okay, that'd be great. Um, and she drops like some of the things that she wants to do, which I've heard nothing about. But that's possibly because we're like dropping bombs all the time now and shooting people in the streets. Maybe that's been overshadowed a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say in her defense, I do think whatever her initiatives are vastly overshadowed by everything else. She
Yeah,
may very well be working hard towards those goals, but nobody's gonna see that.
no. All right. Acting. Um, so she said she staged it, so there is a certain level of acting
Yeah.
involved here. Um, where are you at on that?
Um, so going to the staging thing as well, while there is some conversations and clearly they're staged, even if unscripted, staged, and where they obviously want to hit certain talking points and things, especially when she's in Zoom meetings with first ladies from other nations, or the equivalent, whatever they might call them there in other nations. Obviously, they're trying to hit certain talking points about causes and things like that, and that's fine. That's the kind of stuff I expected, honestly, in this. I was a little disappointed, and the only reason I gave it 1 star for the plot is because I know that there is an audience for fashion related stuff like that. There's been so many fashion oriented documentaries, reality TV shows, and things like that. So I don't think there's not an audience for this, but I almost want to take the 1 star away because, to your point, there is no through line in it, though. I personally would have rather seen, even if it's politics that I vastly disagree with, I still would have personally rather seen her pushing her agenda or how she helped, which I guess they do sort of get to later, how she helped with, with the election. Um, but there is a level of acting in this for sure, and not just the staged scenes, but her voiceover. So the a thing that they do, not just once or twice, but in every scene, once the sort of exchange goes on long enough, they trail off and fade off the dialogue mid conversation for her to do a voiceover recapping what you saw from her perspective. Now, voiceovers are common in documentaries, not always by the subject, though. Again, this gets into where is it really a documentary? Where does that kind of it's not like a narrator who was hired. It's not Morgan Freeman coming in to narrate the documentary, or it's not a third party or somebody from the crew or the filmmaker, but the actual subject. So, not that I had any belief that this would be unbiased in any way, but it takes away even the faintest notion of this being objective when the subject is the one narrating it with obviously scripted narration. I will say her reading was very nice. So, one.
Yeah, I guess. So you're going one for acting then?
One for acting, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you there. Also one for me. I did put the extra caveat I mentioned to you beforehand is like, the percent of time she acted like a human, which I also feel was one. Um, and so it was just, I don't know, she's just so dead inside. It just
Well,
can't.
that's really I think the biggest failing of this movie is I don't know anything about Melania Trump. I just watched her 2 hour movie about her and her initiatives and her time leading into the her second term as the first lady. I still don't know anything about Melania Trump. I know what her dad looks like. That's what I learned from this. I
Her
never
mom
knew what
died.
her dad looked like.
Yeah. Because she trots out dead mom quite a bit in there too. Which, and from what I hear, the relationship was deep and all that, and that's so it was a hard loss. But yeah, that was information I already knew. She had a mom, she passed away, and it was a big hit. But yeah, it yeah, I don't know anything. And there's um like just to see like joy, and I mean I think she's like happy during fittings, sorta, you know. But that was I don't know where I fit this in. I guess it'll be here. It's not acting, but I'll just put it here. You remember the kind of I Spy hat that she wore for the inauguration day?
Yeah.
Um, she's there and she's putting it on, and he's talking about the hat. And she goes, "Yes, the hat." And the guy goes, "Too wide?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, it is too wide." She's like, "Yes, the band needs to be narrower." And so she stayed with this uh, manhole covered size hat, but at least the trim came down. So that was um, that's a spoiler. That's actually going to be my quote from this movie. So now, score, use of music. Be very interested in your thoughts on this.
I have them. Um, so there is an original score. There's also a lot of licensed music in there, um, including a couple of Michael Jackson songs because apparently her favorite. I'm not even going to get into the whole problematic nature of Michael Jackson because everybody knows that. And I think that Michael Jackson being such a huge, not just celebrity, but multi-generational musician, because I mean, he had hit songs as a child singer in a group with his brothers all the way through, awkward teen years to being an adult. So multiple generations grew up on Michael Jackson's music. It is what it is. And I do believe in separating the art from the artist. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. I think that, people have already made up their minds about him one way or the other, especially older people. So, and I'm including myself in that. That's not a shot at Melania Trump for being alive longer than me. Um, so it is what it is, but she sings along to it, which is interesting and expensive. That's definitely where some of that budget went from Amazon because so just a little backdoor volleyball for everybody. Not only do you have to pay for the sync license with it, but if you're performing the music, that's another licensing fee that you have to pay for it. So there's like few seconds of her singing along to Billie Jean, probably like doubled the cost of using that song in there. So interesting. Um, a lot was made about the artists who allowed their music to be licensed. And to be fair, obviously Michael Jackson's not here, so we don't know whether or not he would have allowed the music to be licensed in there. But also a lot of artists don't control their publishing. They work with publishing companies who handle these sorts of things. So it's very possible that the artist had little or no say in whether or not the music was used, but one band did. And they have been very quick to bring this up in multiple interviews now. The people behind the Melania documentary that Guns N' Roses denied them use of their music. I can't fathom what song they wanted to use from Guns N' Roses in this, or where it would have logically made sense in the movie. And especially because the members of Guns N' Roses have been very outspoken about their feelings about Trump. They're not a political band, but they've gone out of their way to talk about how much they disapprove of the current regime in the United States. So why they would have ever reached out to them or asked them to do it is baffling to me. What song they would have used, how they would have used it. I have to assume it's got to be one of the huge hits like Welcome to the Jungle or something, just as random background music, the way that gets played at like sporting events. But again, it just doesn't make sense. But they did say no. And there's some bitter feelings about that in the Trump camp because it has been brought up multiple times by Trump's people now that they turned them down for use in the Melania movie.
Well, I
Other
think
than that, though, the incidental music isn't great, and they use a lot of stock library music, and I would say don't sync it up particularly well. So it's a zero for me.
I'm a little more forgiving than you. I went up to one on it. I mean, and it's not that there are some. I mean, you got the Stones. You've got some good music in here. Um, I'm assuming "Sweet Child of Mine" with like a band in montage would have been the Guns N' Roses usage,
That makes sense.
um, but uh, yeah, it just. I mean, it was just so off-putting the whole thing because I was like, "Is this a music video?" Um, because it just the how the music fit in for either it either felt like they were trying to make a music video on some parts, or to your point, the incidental music was just like, well, we're not doing a music video anymore, so just let's put something behind here so we have sound and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I was wholly unimpressed. So, but I did go with the one.
You're more forgive. This is my first zero I want to point out as well. This is my first zero pandas on anything is the music for this. I mean, there it's weird. Like I get what they were going, and this is probably not. I can't blame Melania Trump for this. This is not the kind of decision or deal that she would have made. But if you're going to say, all right, we're going to have a montage of me leaving Mar-a-Lago, let's have a cool Stone song backing me up. Give me Shelter.
Yeah.
So she's walking out to the chorus of rape and murder is what it is. And I don't think that was intentional. I just think they thought it sounded cool, synced up to the visuals. So it just shows the kind of lack of care, which I we have like a do we have a directing category for this?
So I think it fits in the next one, which is kind of visuals,
Okay,
direction,
because I have a lot to say
cinematography.
about that.
So I think that's we kind of ball that up into a bunch of things. Special effects depends on the nature of the movie. Not a lot
Mm.
of special effects in this one, I don't think. Unless you count Botox or something like that. It's a special effect. So, um, all right. So the next category is visuals, special effects, directing, cinematography. So just the eye experience on this. So where are you at on that?
This one's tough. So I actually this uses quite a bit of drone shots in there, which I actually appreciate it, and I thought they were well done. I think we're at an awkward stage with drones in movies still a little bit, where it looks cool the drone shots, but you it still doesn't quite line up to the other footage, and this is the closest that I feel like it's been, where it feels more natural the transition between a static or a static camera or a camera that's on a dolly track or even a steady cam versus a drone shot. This is some of the most natural transitions between that. So I do give them credit for that. This was directed by Brett Ratner, who I'm pretty sure we would get demonetized if I explain why that's problematic. Not that this is monetized yet, but if it wouldn't be if I explained the Brett Ratner situation. So he's a problematic guy. And again, I do believe in separating the art from the artist, but the fact that it's Brett Ratner and that you have even separating the art from the artist, that you have that in your mind as you're watching it creates weird moments at different times given his history, which I'll get to later for my quote. It creates a real weird moment in there. In fact, there's a couple of odd moments that I could use for a quote, but I guess I'll begrudgingly give it a one for the drone shots and how those are all pieced together nicely. That's not Brett Ratner though. That's whoever the director of photography is for this, because this was a very, very big budget movie. So
Yeah, it this was an interesting one for me because the opening scene going up over Mar-a-Lago, I think cool, and you know it's a drone shot, but there's stuff you watch that was like, oh, they found a drone and they wanted to do footage, and it's just because they could. This made sense. It was showing kind of the expanse and some of the stuff in Washington, some of the stuff in New York were good. And I thought actually pretty strong. So I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna actually give a good number here. But then they came through for me, and I lost count of the number of shots of shoes. I spent a lot of time letting you know what kind of shoes she was wearing because that's what you want to do for someone who wants to be taken seriously is show their shoe. And so they showed a lot of her shoes, and then they came up, so a lot of money for this movie. You would have thought they wouldn't have used an off the shelf, make your video look like it came from a Super 8 camera overlay.
oh, I forgot that.
They
Yeah, I almost forgot that. Thank you.
Yeah. And so this just was just horrific. And I was like, oh, my father, you like to always shoot with the video camera. And like the first time they use it, you connect the dot to it. But then they start using it all over the place. Like, oh, apparently her father's in the motorcade or he's over here. He's guys all over the place. And they dropped the resolution down. And but it was super irritating, added nothing to the movie. Didn't make any real sense to do that. I think if you're gonna, if you how he shoots movies all the time, good. Show some of those movies instead of footage you shot that you slapped an overlay on. But
Thank you. Yeah, that really bothered me because she mentioned that he constantly shot these Super 8 movies, but then they don't show them to you.
nope.
This is a visual medium. Don't tell us that there's this good footage somewhere and then don't show it to us. And then to use just a very cheap, basic camera filter on there, like this wasn't even well done. And the first time, like Kelly was saying, they do try to align it to make it because he's got his Super 8 camera with him. They try to align it to make it look like it's from his perspective shooting with the Super 8 camera, even though it's very clearly not. But then they just do it like Kelly's from that point on. It just sporadically pops into the movie for no reason.
Right.
His
And
he's
yeah.
not even in the scene.
Yeah. Cause it's like, oh, they're walking into the Coliseum and it's like so
Yeah. And I have a Super 8 camera, so it really even the first shot like bothered me just because I've shot with Super 8 before, so I know what it actually looks like, not the filters. So I was like, that's not Super 8. Like that's not real film grain. That's you know what I mean. So it bothered me the first time, but I was like, all right, I get what they're doing. Like they're showing you her from his perspective, and his perspective is a Super 8 camera because he loved shooting home movie. I get it. But then when they just started randomly doing it, I was like, it didn't work for me really the first, like I gave it a pass the first time because I understand the narrative, but no, yeah. This really, really makes me want to take my one away now that I'm hyper focused on this, but the drone shots are cool. So it begrudgingly gets a one.
and I actually I went with a two because I felt at least the strong points. I was probably possibly going to go with a four if it was only the strong points. So I could give this a four even. But the shoes pulled it down and the Super 8 pulled it down. And so that's where I sit on that. Last but not least, quote.
There is unintentionally, so first, it's worth noting if anybody is thinking about watching this, and politics are standing in your way to some degree, it's a solid, it's more than 20 minutes. I think it's probably around 25 minutes before you even get your first glimpse of Donald Trump in it. And it's really not until the end that he's a regular presence, maybe like the last quarter of the movie. So if that's either selling you or keeping you away from the project, don't really let it do that. because I wouldn't say that that's a vital factor of this, his presence in it. He pops up a couple of times, and it's really not until the day of the inauguration that he's a permanent fixture in there, although it's still focused on her. So not a huge thing one way or the other, just to let fans or detractors of his know. But there are two unintentionally super awkward moments in this movie, and either one I think could be the quote. So it's kind of a tie for me. The first is Trump. They are going over their plans for the motorcade with an assistant of his, I assume. He's not a Secret Service guy because the Secret Service guys actually stop him because he's giving too much information in front of cameras. And they're like, we know this is a movie and everything, but like, don't talk about that stuff in front of cam. Like, they step in and do their job when it's happening. But Trump keeps bringing the conversation back around to it's an important day because that's when he gets to fix the country. And he keeps bringing it back around to that. And then he's clearly fishing for someone to say something positive in response to this. And none of them are biting, not Melania, not his assistant, not the Secret Service guys. And finally, he very forcefully is like, I'm going to fix the country that day. And the assistant guy is like, oh, we're very grateful. Thank you. And it is so awkward. It is so weird and awkward. This guy fishing for a compliment so hard to where he practically demands it. And then this incredibly spineless assistant equally awkwardly begging his friend. It's like a weird dom sub relationship that they have going on. It's very creepy and weird. The other one is just darker, I think, and again unintentionally. Um, Earlier in the film, Melania hires two assistants to help her with trying on clothes. I guess is, but they do later show you the two assistants in New York at the Trump Towers, in the what looks, I assume, is the dining room. They're sitting there. It's and they're showing you because she tells them it's a payoff for her dialogue earlier, telling them, you're going to work day and night during the time leading up to the inauguration. So it's night out. And there it shows you them typing away on their laptops, they're on their phones. And one of the assistants, and I'm sorry, I don't remember their names, but they're both there in the scene. One of them gets a phone call. It's obviously a staged conversation because of how loud the phone call is in the mix. It's just as clear and loud as she is. But obviously, they were fielding a lot of these calls because word had leaked out about this Amazon documentary. So people wanted to interview Melania in relation to it. And she politely takes the information, but is obviously kind of just brushing it off. And I'm sure they got 1,000 of these requests. But Brett Ratner, standing in this dining room in the dark with these two young women, chimes in, warning her not to trust those Hollywood types. Which, again, just Google Brett Ratner. So it creates another unintentionally very awkward, dark kind of moment in the film. So either of those are my quote.
Good. Yeah, I mean, so I could go with the whole exchange of the hat too wide, and it's like the band. Um, what I will go with instead is I put captions on almost immediately so that I could understand the movie because uh,
Did that help?
yes, because I mean I knew what inauguration was. Inauguration. I knew that was the inauguration. What I didn't know was if she was talking about. She goes, "Well, what about the otter jackets?" And I thought she was talking about jackets made of otters, but apparently it was the other jackets, which came up on the caption. I said, "Oh, okay, no otters were killed in the making of." Well, there probably were, but it was for fun, you know.
Yeah,
But
just sport, not
yeah,
not
the,
part of the
the
film.
director and Dottie just went out in the backyard and clubbed them. So, so what will you give either one of your two quotes, point wise?
So I guess this is where I got to go hide because I mean unintentionally they are affecting moments of the film. So I guess I got to do five pandas.
All right.
And you, sir?
So I will go with Otter Jackets for three. Um, so I'll do that. So let us know what your thoughts are of Melania if you've watched it. If you haven't, you're welcome. We've told you everything that's happened in it. We haven't said anything about what happened in the movie, and we've told you everything that happened in the movie. So
I will
there,
say, there I was surprised. Did anything catch you off guard in the movie or surprise you about the movie?
no, except choices like the idea of let me record somebody lip syncing to Billie Jean in the back of a limo. Um, I don't know why. That's a good call, but yes, those are some choices surprise me. The fact
I
that
was surprised there was none of the Vances in it. I mean, they're in the background
you see him,
of a
yeah.
couple of shots, yeah,
I'd say
but
Jeff
there's
Bezos
no.
is in it more than J.D. Vance.
You see Bezos, yeah, you see Bezos a few times. There's a few people they talk to more, some of her stylists and different things. There because there's no dialogue directly from Vance or his wife. I believe her name is Usha. Is that right?
Yep.
And yeah, there and I expected her to be in it, being the wife of because it's about the first lady, so I thought we would see the wife of the vice president as well. So honestly, that really caught me off guard because I expected Usha Vance to be a pretty big part of the documentary, and she's really just standing next to JD Vance at the inauguration. That's her entire involvement in it.
Yeah, and yeah, I would say that Usha and JD got less time than Bezos, uh, Tim Apple, as Trump likes to refer to him, and um, oh gosh, there was somebody else that was oh yeah, a very unhappy Kamala Harris.
I was gonna say, yeah, Kamala Harris and Biden are in it more than the Vances are.
Yep,
You know who's not in it though? Snoop Dogg.
that's correct.
Because he wasn't there.
Take note, people. So, all right, so that means at the end of the day, um, eight pandas for you, seven pandas for me. That five at
That's
the end.
honestly higher than I expected.
Yeah,
It's the quotes.
yeah. The quotes saved it a little bit. So
Yeah.
we're fair, even though there's a movie we may not like, if there's a good quote, we'll give them credit. So
And I don't know if you saw, but I don't know if this is still happening. But part of the reason that Amazon says that they put up so much money for this is because this is the start of the Melania cinematic universe. The plan was to spin this off into a docu-series following her now as First Lady. This was leading up to it. The series would take over with her as First Lady, which I have to assume they have already started production in. So even though this is a failure relative to its budget, and to give credit where it's due, it's made $16 million theatrically. That's a lot for a documentary. For perspective, the highest grossing documentary of last year made $16 million. So I mean, it's high for a documentary, 16 million. Relative to its budget, it's a giant failure. But documentaries typically don't cost that much money. So 16 million is high for a documentary because documentaries are usually made by setting up a camera and filming something.
yeah,
The budgets are usually negligible for documentaries. So millions of dollars are never spent making documentaries. So, and this is why, because there just isn't that kind of it's not the same kind of base as standard film. But this was the start of the Melania cinematic universe. So I'm curious to see what happens with that because with that kind of an investment, and given that, it leads into her already being in the White House, they have to already be filming stuff for that. So do they shelve that? Do they roll the dice and just move forward? Because I mean, that's what's happening a little bit with Universal right now. So when Disney bought Fox, there was a couple of properties Disney vocally was like, we don't want these. Who wants them? One of them was the Exorcist franchise. Disney did not want any parts of that. So there was a big bidding war, and Universal swooped in and paid $400 million for it, and then which was insane, and then made a very expensive Exorcist movie, and then did a massive marketing campaign that really has never been done before for a horror movie, which included like haunted house attractions and different things, spending over $500 million, and the movie absolutely tanked, made nothing at the box office. So it is the biggest failure ever relative to what they over $500 million spent on it. So they actually have no choice but to make another Exorcist movie. They can't stop because it's their only chance of recouping some of their investment. They're in too deep at this point. So I wonder if that's where Amazon's at with this. Like, are they in too deep and just have to try and push through it?
The outlook's not good though. I wouldn't say there's many indicators that the next one's going to do any better, and I expect it'll go worse. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see. I hope not. I've had enough, but why don't you follow Bog Panda, folks? We'd appreciate that. Hit like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you enjoyed this movie more than us, and if you're looking forward to the MCU Melania cinematic universe.
The
God
other
help us all.
MCU.
Oh God. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.